Hello, friends, colleagues, and people of the world. My name is Patrick, and I'm coming to you from hazy, sweaty Singapore. My commentary today is inspired by Sean Michael Morris's blog post, Digital Pedagogy, and specifically when he talks about that pedagogy should be a process of critical thinking. Furthermore, he comments on the fact that technology is ever changing in our world, and as educators, we often are focusing on those tools, and when we do that, we let the tools shape our action. Well, I ask you this, when we talk about great artists in the world, whether they're contemporary artists or artists from history, do we really ever talk about the chisels and the hammers? Not so much, right? We'll talk about process and product and how that was shaped by their place in time. So tech tools, especially in 2019, they're ever changing, and it's so much more important that we can access our background knowledge about an old tool and apply it to a new tool and continue to leverage our learning and our process through that knowledge. And because things are changing so much, we can't even begin to do this if we are viewing the tech landscape without viewing the technology landscape through a critical lens with an eye for enhancing learning versus enhancing the technology agenda. Understanding the difference between the technology agenda and the learning agenda is why a pedagogy of critical thinking is important for both educators and students. To quote digital pedagogy researcher Dr. Bonnie Stewart, the internet has been reduced to Google and a garbage fire. One of my most favorite quotes ever. We have complacently allowed Google to shape our interactions in digital space, and in doing so, it has given birth to spaces where opinion is valid fact, especially if you're mean, loud, and popular. This paradigm, which we could say was born in rogue internet chat rooms, has now bled into our analog spaces. So there's never been a more important time when educators need to be engaged in role modeling pedagogy as a process of critical thinking and setting a new positive paradigm for how we manage, use, and interact in our digital spaces. So I've talked a bunch about digital space. I'm going to change direction a bit and talk about Ali Chelman's TED Talk on how disengaged boys are in school. And then we'll loop back again and talk about, again, connect that to pedagogy as critical thinking. So Car Chelman's TED Talk is a great example about how schools are still deeply invested in a compliance and content framework. And because of that, they are alienating boys' opportunity to grow and learn. She notes that though not all boys and girls are created equal, rough and tumble boy culture is pushed aside and left out of the classroom, very much because very often we're a little bit shocked and put off by the way some boys behave, but it's normal, and we should realize that it's normal. And having said that, any system, school system, leadership framework, faculty that is steeped in the critical approach to learning would be able to see this. They would be able to look through the lens and really investigate this. Is this dangerous, or is this just a typical boy behavior? Now, in 2019, we have the kind of video games, the kind that she called for when she did this video in 2010. We have Minecraft. We could use World of Warcraft. We could use all these. We can use Fortnite. We can use all these games that these boys are playing if we were willing to be creative and to think outside the box and bring them into the classroom. However, we have the tool now, but my question is, do we really have the critically literate faculty that are willing to see what they do beyond the compliance, beyond the content, and really think about putting learning at the top of the agenda? And that I'm not so sure of. And I think still that is why we still see things like video games as a rarity in the classroom. So to wrap this all up, Sean Michael Morris points out that all teaching we do today is hybrid. And what he means by that is that we exist in real world spaces as teachers and in digital spaces simultaneously. And because educators exist in both those spaces, I believe that we can't passively sit by and just watch that garbage fire burn that I talked about earlier, but rather as teachers we need to set positive protocols for digital behavior, and not only positive protocols, but how we can show students they can leverage those digital spaces to their advantage for their careers, for their learning, for whatever they choose. And at the same time, and this definitely reflects the complexity of an educator's role in 2019, As teachers, we need to be working in that critical hybrid space to prioritize a learning agenda through the leveraging of digital tools. And hopefully we'll arrive at a pedagogy of critical engagement that can engage and energize all children.